space technology, chemical industries, high-performance computing, science and technology, energy transition, AI possesses the encompassing potential to power up the materials and energy sector of the country. AI-driven solutions are used to optimize both renewable and traditional energy systems all over the world. In the renewable energy space, AI assists in the site selection for solar and wind farms by analyzing geographical and climatic data, ensuring that installations are placed in optimal locations. Government agencies are looking into tapping AI to detect issues in the energy grid, to prevent outages, and ensure smooth operations across power plants in the country. These developments illustrate AI's potential to revolutionize the energy landscape in the Philippines.
Okay, perhaps I can start with a bit of background, how I got into this, at least our current work at the College of Engineering, our infrastructure that we call SHARC, Scalable HPCs for Academic and Research Computing, and why there's an S at the end of HPC, which usually stands for high performance computing. So why do we say HPCs? When we took office in 2022, my dean and her associate deans, my predecessor, Dr. Dinoga, actually had a few things already in motion. So he had arranged for the acquisition of our first college-wide cluster, which was donated by the UP ERDFI through several alumni and industry donors. And that's the rack on the left. So that a few weeks after we came in, this got delivered and we started installation. And it looked a bit lonely, this single rack inside that room. So I remembered I had a few computing assets as well from a previous effort called PRIME, funded by the Commission on Higher Education. So I also placed it in that room, in that data center. And I remembered, if that was true for my case, how about for other funded projects? Maybe they had projects that ended, staff that moved on, and they weren't able to operate their own compute infrastructure anymore. So I went around, we scavenged for these sort of leftover computing assets. Turns out that there were a lot. And at some point, we inaugurated the facility with several clusters hosted there. So our offer was to operate and host these clusters for them. They would continue to own it, but at least we would be able to put it to good use. When the servers for the AA program of the College of Engineering also came in, then we also had to quickly prepare the facility for that. That was quite a challenge. We had to ramp up air conditioning, even rework the power supply, the electrical supply for the facility. So after about a year from one rack, we had around 14 racks of computing equipment there. So today, there are 11 clusters that we work with, either under our direct operational supervision or that at least we collaborate with throughout the college. 9 of these 11 clusters are hosted at the National Engineering Center. 2 are on the other side of the campus. And those 2 major sites are interconnected by a 100 gig backbone. High-performance computing really requires perhaps the most bleeding edge of technologies as far as storage and compute and networking is concerned. And it's something that practically changes every day. It's really hard to keep up. Aside from this, we also have to manage the facility itself, everything from air conditioning to the power supply and things like that. Of course, with all of this infrastructure, the basic question is, what can you do with it? How is it useful? Can you science on it? And this brings us to what has been called the fourth paradigm of science, in addition to empirical, theoretical, and computational science, data-driven science, which really relies a lot on computation and data. So there seem to be two aspects to this. Number one, do your researchers, are they in a good position to sort of embrace this way of doing research or augmenting their research work through e-science? And the other half is, do you have the infrastructure for this? And as we sort of thought about this further, especially for someone like me who's really an infrastructure person, a nerd, a geek at heart, it's really easy to fall into that trap of simply thinking about infrastructure. But as we thought about it, the key really is to think about services instead of just the infrastructure. Does this translate to services for your users? So for us, although there is that infrastructure, the most important and really the focus of our strategy and mission is this interaction in red. It's about the interaction between our users and the engineers who sort of interface between the infrastructure and our users. And so we organize this team called the EASE team, which stands for E-Science as a Service in Engineering. So we constantly have to remind ourselves our job is to make e-science easy, something like that. It's a bit forced, but at least it's something worth remembering. So, something we keep in mind is it's not about the infrastructure. It's again, it's so easy to fall into that trap, but it's not about the infrastructure. It's about our clients and the work that they need to do. It's about them being able to do their job. Because of this sort of service-centric or service-focused mission, we're also a bit obsessed about monitoring. We monitor everything, and we add and add things to monitor on a daily basis. So we have this in the team's office, and then this is in my own office. I also watch the graphs. I always challenge our engineers. If something goes wrong, the first thing I ask them, what do the logs say? What do the graphs tell you? What happened before that? What led to that? Of course, eventually AI should help us with those answers as well. As an example, this chat exchange was literally from a few nights ago. There was a single GPU card that was warning us it was overheating. And this was at around 8:40 p.m. We take these messages, notifications seriously, and that resulted in this chat exchange with the team trying to debug and resolve this issue. So what has been achieved so far? Well, we'd like to think that this is a sampling. I'm sorry about the small text, but this is a sampling of what we've been able to do in one of the clusters for the first year. So it enabled some students to work with their projects, some faculty members. A typical interaction might be someone needs to do something, like for example, they need to run quantum espresso for some simulation. We sit down with them, we ask them, okay, what's your workflow? What kind of data will you be using? Is there any pre-processing? We'll look at the software. Can we compile it? Can we parallelize it? How will this be tuned? Any special flags and things like that. As we grapple with our internal users, with our internal needs, we realize that And as we also went around the country from a previous project and from our own efforts now, we realized that there's a lot to be done. There's a lot that we need to do as a country as far as readying the infrastructure for this. So in 2019, in a previous project, I started to organize the High Performance and Computing and Networking Conference. In 2019, we had our first conference. And then last year, we were able to hold one as well, HPCN 2023. This is Doc Mao from Erie making a presentation there. We also find some users who work with individual desktops that have GPUs because that's the most affordable way to do ML and AI these days. And we help them, we engage them. Okay, do you want to cluster this so that you can run it in parallel across these several desktops that you have? We also offer training in partnership as well with ASTI on high-performance computing and EduRoam. We did this in 2019. We were also able to do this in 2023. And then as an offshoot of our conference, we got to talk to PNRI, for example, Philippine Nuclear Research Institute, and asked about their computational needs. And then we offered to benchmark one of the simulations that they did, especially when they were deciding to redesign and reboot the nuclear reactor in Quezon City. So the simulation takes them around 30 hours in their facility. And then we said, okay, do you want us to run it in our facility? And so that you can decide for yourself, is there any added value going into this sort of thing? And we were able to show that, let's say at 960 cores, what used to take them 30 hours can be achieved in 1.72 hours. So, more science per minute. Okay, so a few thoughts as I conclude. There's a lot of investment that's needed if we want to scale research in AI. I haven't even discussed anything really specific about AI as it applies to high-performance computing. But adding AI into this mix adds a layer of complexity, like ML operations, parallelizing model training or inference across multiple machines, things like that, synchronizing them. So that's even more complex than it is with CPU-based computation. But in the meantime, let's help each other out. Let's do what we can. We can help you get into HPC. In fact, we've formed what we call, I understand that the term is community of practice, but I think COPE is a better term for us, so we can help cope with this challenge. So we call it communities of practice and engagement. We're working with, aside from ERI, with BGC, and a lot of other groups nationwide. We're also thinking that perhaps one model for the way forward might be we can also explore clustering our clusters, just like what we were trying to do at the College of Engineering. It's a bit of I think, a cultural thing. We will want to own our own infrastructure, but maybe we can interconnect such that we can scavenge idle capacities. When it's not needed, then it can be lent or rented out to others. And again, we keep reminding ourselves, and maybe for those who are also into infrastructure, that it's about services, and most importantly, it's about people, especially if we're going to ready the infrastructure to scale AI research. We have to think about people, not only on the research end, but also on the infrastructure end. And finally, and as we think about people, I'm also reminded of this article written by Dr. Pernia, Dr. Concepcion, about the importance of suprastructure. So it's not just about infrastructure, but the knowledge and people who operate and work with that infrastructure. And finally, I'm heartened to hear about the importance of infrastructure and capacity building as mentioned by Director Paringit. So it's really good to hear that, because in other contexts, with other agencies, unfortunately, capacity building seems to have come out of fashion. So it's still very important these days. Thank you very much.